Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
I want to take a brief moment right now to apologize to y'all because I was not able to come do the radio show on Friday. I came to work, but work was PTI that day, and I was looking forward to doing the show on Friday because I don't know if y'all know this, man. My name is Bomani Jones, Bomani Babatunde Jones, if you want to get all the names involved there. But you know what they used to call me back in the day? Back in another life, back in the olden times, back in the ancient days? You know what they used to call me, Shannon?
I'm unfamiliar. What's up?
They used to call me Bostradamus. That's right. Bostradamus. See, every now and then it happens that I'll get on this radio show here and I tell you something that I think how it's going to play out. And then what do you know? It actually plays out that way. Now, this is an interesting circumstance because we were on the radio on Thursday and we were talking about the owner-player meetings or whatever it is. And I had no idea that there was a story coming on Friday from Don Van Natta and Seth Wickersham. I had no idea that story was coming. That was going to talk about Bob McNair saying the whole inmates in the prison thing. Remember that? He said the whole inmates in the prison thing and kind of set the whole thing off the Texans. Didn't he want to come to work that day? DeAndre Hopkins was like, bump that. You guys who aren't as good as me can go to work. I'm going home. All right. Anyway, the day before on the radio, I tried to give you some warnings about how the NFL might have been playing this backwards and what Bob McNair's role probably was in those meetings. Let's go ahead and play what Bostradamus had to say on Thursday. There seemed to pretty clearly be a level of vetting, right? Like Stephen Ross, he's got that RISE program. We out here trying to save the world. He's going. Shad Khan, who's been in the newspaper talking bad about Trump, he got to go. But also on the other side, you had like Bob McNair, who I feel like is there just to make sure don't nobody give up the farm. You know, like Bob McNair's to make sure, go ahead and make sure that these softies don't do anything stupid. They didn't just let any owner decide that he wanted to show up. I don't think that was really like necessarily the game plan. But all it takes is for one of them to have had enough. Like, I don't have to listen to y'all. I'm doing this just to be nice. Then the whole thing goes out of whack. And that's before we talk about Kaepernick showing up. Shannon, correct me if I'm wrong. Did Bostradamus not basically get this almost word for word on what went down?
It's the first thing I thought about when I read the piece in the clips from the Wickersham and Van Natta piece. I thought about your comments Thursday about McNair.
This is it. This is exactly the thing that happened. And understand this. I didn't pull Bob McNair's name out of thin air. I didn't just choose any owner off the list to opt for on this one. Bob McNair was a dude, if you know a little background, is like, nah. He strikes me as the type that'll mess around and make this mistake. And the next thing you do, he made this mistake. And then Bob McNair wound up in a situation that I bet you never in his 80 years on planet Earth did he ever consider that he would be in. And you know what that situation was? Having to go beg for forgiveness from those dudes. Because he had to, right? Friday came. Players found out what it was McNair had to say. 10 of them bolted out, right? Only 2 of them actually stayed away, but 10 of them were like, man, bump this. And then they had to go and talk to him like, come on, man, we got a game this weekend. Don't let him mess this up for you. You know, so most of those cats came back. Hopkins was just like, man, what this offense going to be without me? I'll holler at y'all a little bit later. He rolled out. Y'all the ones that need more practice. I don't need more practice, right? McNair never in his life ever considered a situation where he would have to ask a room that looked like that to forgive him. But see, here was the problem with McNair on this one. McNair wanted forgiveness, but McNair decided, okay, what's my story, right? Like, what am I going to say to try to get out of this? And where McNair needed to go with, no. I said something I should not have said. Bottom line, I apologize. No. McNair went with, I apologize if you were offended, but you got to understand, that's not really what I meant. I was talking to about the league office people, and, you know, the league office people, and we can't let them be in charge. They've been in charge too long, and I feel like Bob McNair, even though he's old, apparently has not listened to nearly enough Bill Withers, because Bill Withers had one of the greatest lines of all time. Brother, it don't do too much good to be talking when ain't nobody listening. Right? So McNair's like, no, I'll get this straight. I'll just explain to everybody that I meant something else. And so he came and workshopped that in the statement to the media. Like, yeah, you know, I was really talking about the people that work in the league office. And that didn't seem to go over well. Nobody seemed to buy it when he workshopped it on the public, right? So rather than let me go come up with another approach, he was like, nah. I'm going to come in here on Saturday and say the same exact thing that I'd said before because Bob McNair is in on that one story. I would call it a lie, but I guess there's some wiggle room, right? He's in on that one story. So he showed up on Saturday to try to pass that story off on the players. Now, you know what that tells me? When the man showed up on Saturday to pass that story off, that tells me one thing and one thing only. Somebody had to make sure everybody got on the plane. Like, if you are Bob McNair, could you be positive that everybody was going to get on the plane? He had to show up, because if he doesn't show up, I bet you somebody doesn't get on that plane, right? So he had to show up, and then he passed off the same exact story. I talked to a dude that heard McNair's spiel while he was talking to him, and his response to that was, he's full of it and everybody knows it. Like, nobody believed a word that Bob McNair had to say. But he had to get the dudes on the plane. That was the most important part. We have to make sure there's a game. We heard, Shannon, that there was a potential that maybe the Texans players were going to peel the Texans decal off their helmets to play the game. And I don't know if Bob McNair flew out there to Seattle, but I think Bob McNair would have run to Seattle from Houston if he had to. To stop that, he'd have come out there with a broom like Sandman Sam. There'd have been a butterfly net thrown on him. No, it wasn't going to be that. It wasn't going to be that. I want to know who talked the players out of that one, too, because that would have been the boldest move they absolutely could have made. Who came up to them and was like, oh, okay, fellas, I think you're right, but y'all going, that's a little too far.
See, I'm a little curious. I want to know what those meetings were like, the players' meetings were like before. Like, who came up with that idea? Like, maybe we can stay in the locker room, we can kneel, maybe fist up. You know what? I got it. How about we take the decal off the helmet?
We don't play for the Texans no more. We play for each other. We play for the brotherhood, right? Like, that's what that one is. We don't play for them no more. Also, Shannon, how lucky is it that J.J. Watt, for his sake and for everybody's, that J.J. Watt is hurt? Can you imagine all those microphones in J.J. Watt's face after the game to talk about this?
I could just imagine Adams splitting. Like, that's all I have.
JJ, next question. I don't want to talk about that. Can we talk about something else? I don't want any parts of this. I don't want any of it at all. So they knelt during the national anthem. Even a couple white guys took a knee during the national anthem when this happened. But here's the thing I think that people are losing sight of, man. These guys knew how Bob McNair got down. They're not surprised to find out that this is how Bob McNair got down. What bothered them is the fact that they, as a team, have not had anybody kneel during the national anthem. Right? Like, this is the same issue the Cowboys had. The Cowboys were like, yo, none of us have kneeled during the national anthem. Why are you out here poking us in the chest? Right? Like, why are you out here talking about us when we haven't even done this, and when we considered doing it, we came and talked to you? McNair got a squad where none of these dudes, like Dwayne Brown, threw up the fist, right, during the anthem, but nobody has kneeled during the national anthem. Nobody has. So when they hear that sort of thing, and they're like, yo, dog, we are actually doing what it is that you want. Even if we were inmates, we're not even trying to run this bad boy. What are you doing, right? And then you call them inmates. Now, all of a sudden, they got a problem because at the end of the day, man, these are still grown men. And at the end of the day, grown men are not going to respond positively to the ways that they've been treated and talked about by so many of these players. And I think for a lot of them, are learning in this process that owners have much less respect for them than they probably thought that they had. And who becomes the face of it? Bob McNair. Let me tell you something that's interesting about Bob McNair. I talked to somebody around the Texans, and they made a great point. They said that McNair has done so much to make sure that there was never any level of scandal on the Texans. Closest thing to scandal with the Texans is Brian Cushing getting caught up with that juice, right? But he's done so much to make sure there was never any scandal on the Texans, that he never brought in anybody that would tarnish the name of the Texans. They vet players very closely for that reason. And who wound up being the one to put the tarnish on the Texans? The dude who spent all the effort making sure that nobody else put any tarnish on the Texans.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
We were talking about Bob McNair and him making sure them boys got on the plane to play the game on Saturday. And it worked. They all went and played. It was a pretty immaculate game. But I had not heard this until I got to work today. Randy Moss is right there with me telling Bob McNair, oh, no, you have to do better than that.
That apologies don't fly, because you're sitting at an owner's meeting All those powerful owners in one room. You know, Bob McNair is looked at as the owner, of course, but more of the leader of the team. The city of Houston just went through a hurricane. They just lost their franchise player. Then you come with this message. So really, Bob McNair, what message are you really trying to send? For them to be able to build that stadium, for him to be able to build his franchise, that stadium and that franchise was built on a lot of minorities helping him build that empire. So for him to come out with that statement, Sam, it's not flying. The man just got caught. Now he's trying to be apologetic. That's not flying.
I love, by the way, that Randy Moss decided when they put him on television, y'all hired me to be Randy Moss. So I will continue to be Randy Moss. There's other cats that get on TV and they try to become broadcasters. No. I'm here to be Randy Moss. All right, 888-729-3776. Dr. Kelly, applaud. Kelly, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, Bomani, how you doing?
Doing all right, man.
I'm doing good, thank you. Hey, I'm glad to hear I asked your call screener if you were going to have Ryan Clark on today. Real interesting. Ryan Clark has a fantastic perspective on this. Basically, the bottom line was he said the bottom line is it's absolutely not racist on the owner's part. He meant absolutely nothing in regards to race. It's a common phrase that has been and will be used continuously by people. They normally say asylum as compared to inmates. He said, but take consideration the age of the owner and how he said it and what he said. He says, more interesting than that, he says, if you think that's bad, imagine sitting at the negotiating table when the owner of the Colts looked across at Peyton Manning and called him boy. He said they don't see this as anything else except your labor. We're the owners. Basically, we pay you a lot of money to go out and do your job, do it, and keep your mouth shut. And quite frankly, 75% of the communities out here believe the same exact thing and have absolutely no problem with it one bit. That's how we work every single day.
Whoa. 75% of what?
75%. All right, 75. I said 75% of the community out here. I would say 75% of the working community out here goes to work every day. They do what they're told to do, and if they don't like it, in other words, if ESPN said, "Hey, Bomani, guess what? We want you to stand on your hands and do your show tomorrow," you better have pretty strong arms or go find a different job. I want to make sure you understand something, though. You know Ryan Clark getting in charge here, right? Like you see, but it's very important though, because like Ryan will be on later and he could have told me all this stuff that you told me, but Ryan said it, therefore you agree. That ain't making it what it is. Like Kelly, appreciate the call, but I mean, I guess Shannon also. Did I say anything about it being racial in the first when we talked about it last segment?
We didn't bring a racial aspect, element, or anything into it. We were just talking about McNair having to apologize. And to those guys.
All I had was jokes, man. I can't even tell no jokes around y'all.
Interesting thing about this with the owner is most of these owners, they have no back down in them. You don't become a billionaire and have this money that McNair has and having some back down. So it's for him to have to go in and apologize to his players, that says a lot.
By the way, I could totally see an owner calling Peyton Manning boy. You know why? Because I could totally see Peyton Manning up there talking to them like they equals. Right? I can totally see Peyton Manning. Fellas. Say that again, boy. Ho, my fault. I thought this was something else. I could totally see that. By the way, here was Dwayne Brown before the game, after the game, talking about whether or not the owner's comments had any effect on the game itself.
I mean, what is the relationship like now after the meeting with Bob? How did that go on Saturday?
Not too well, but, you know, like I said, we blocked out all distractions and just came out here ready to play.
Yeah, this is one interesting thing here. We didn't just get a good game on Sunday. We got the best game of the NFL season, one of the best regular season games I recall seeing. What we got was amazing. A quarterback duel between Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson, where Watson, I've not been sold. I feel a whole lot more sold after watching him play that game on Sunday. And Russell Wilson, for all the things that Russell Wilson does that you could complain about, man, he makes big plays. And if you're a guy like me who has had a problem with the dink and dunk sort of offenses that have proliferated the NFL, they were throwing the ball down the field. You had Hopkins making big plays. Like, that was as exciting an NFL game as I have watched in 2017. Absolutely as exciting. And that's part of what, so I think it's interesting when we start talking about the difference in ratings and everything else this year. Yeah, I think the protest stuff probably has some measure to do with it. I have no way of measuring the magnitude, but I could see it having something to do with it. But the football hasn't been as good. Like, do you honestly enjoy watching football as much as you used to? Because I just haven't found the football to be as enjoyable. I just don't, right? And so this time we got a great game. Not a good game. We got a great game. And if the NFL wants to figure out how to, quote-unquote, move past this stuff, give us more great games. We like those. We'll take those. All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Let's hit the phones and talk to Jay in Vegas. Jay, thanks for calling the right time.
How you doing, brother? Love the show. Congrats on the success.
Appreciate it, man.
I literally turned the radio on, got back in the car during the last caller's rant. I can't stand it when people say, well, if I did that on my job, I can't do that on my job. I do my job without having to go through all that. One, because it makes you uncomfortable doesn't mean that they shouldn't do what they're doing. Because it's bringing up something that you wish you didn't have to talk about or think about or hear on ESPN, that doesn't mean they have no right to do it. And my response to if I did that on my job, I'd be fired. Guess what, sir? 80,000 people don't show up to watch you do your job. People aren't spending $300 to buy your work shirt as we do for a jersey. So there is a difference between a platform on an everyday person and an NFL player, an NBA player, who millions of people tune in to watch them or follow them on Twitter or Instagram. People want to know what they're doing, what they have to say. But now because it's making certain people uncomfortable, owners, it doesn't matter. They still have the right to do it. And that's just the bottom line, whether you're comfortable with it or not. Well, I appreciate the call.
Hey, I appreciate the call, man, but I would look at that from a little bit of a different angle. One thing is, like, I've never had a job where they made me stand at attention and, like, in effect, pledge loyalty to anything, right? Like, it's not just that they're asking you to do something. There's something in particular about the thing that people are being asked to do. Like, that is where I think the issue winds up coming up that's a little bit different than people's jobs, right? There's that. The other part is this. If the owners could make those dudes stand in that way, if they felt like they could really, really do it, they'd have done it by now. There's a reason why they feel like they can't quite do it, and so you can't knock the players for having leverage that you may not have at your gig.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, just like our next guest. He covers the NFL and the Houston Texans for the Houston Chronicle. His name is John McClain. Now, John, given everything that happened on Friday and Saturday, were you surprised the Texans played as well as they did on Sunday?
I was, Bomani, because not had nothing to do with the distraction. I just thought at some point Deshaun Watson's going to have a bad game, and CenturyLink Field, where Russell Wilson's 36-36 going into the game, in 36-6 going into the game, I thought sure that would be the time. I picked the Seahawks spread was 6. I picked them by 10, and then Watson went out and he and Wilson had a duel that you don't see much of in the NFL anymore with so many teams offensively challenged. But it was because of Watson and his receivers that did such a tremendous job.
Well, have you been surprised how well O'Brien has adjusted the offense for Watson?
When he left, anybody can coach Tom Brady. Let's be honest. You and I could coach Brady. But when Bill went to Penn State, he had Matt McElwain. They had all those sanctions, they had all the controversy, and he was coach of the year, and they had a winning record. Couldn't go to a bowl, of course. Next year, he had a freshman, Christian Hackenberg, and everybody thought, boy, that kid's going to be the first pick in the draft. And then O'Brien left, and Hackenberg didn't get much better. So it's kind of like, as he told us, you have to fit the talent of the player. It's not fair to ask a player, come in here, here's what we do, fit in. He said we've tailored everything to his strengths and weaknesses.
All right, we're talking to John McClain of the Houston Chronicle here on The Right Time. Now, with everything that's gone on, what was the weekend like for Bill O'Brien? Because he's kind of the guy caught in the middle.
I'm glad you asked that, but Monty, because that's my column tomorrow. Here's a guy who went to Penn State for the worst scandal in the history of college sports, maybe in the history of any sport, and did really well under incredibly difficult circumstances. And just this year, he had to deal with Hurricane Harvey, the flooding, the families. The team was in New Orleans, then it was in Dallas, and then they had to come back, and they got crushed in that first game here by Jacksonville. And I'm figure some of it had to do with the distraction, and then this one last week, his message to the players is, I'm behind you 100%. He tells us that. He tells them behind the scenes. A couple of players told me he was a rock, that he talked them off the ledge, and and having them get ready. And as O'Brien says, when it comes to dealing with distraction, he said, I got to put a huge emphasis on we. He said, it's the players out there, and he said, I've got coaches that have a great bond with the players. So they did a great job of getting that team ready to play, because the Seahawks, they were gassed, and they were so complimentary of Watson and the Texans, because they knew, Russell Wilson bailed them out big time. But I think O'Brien has done a terrific job coaching Watson, designing game plans, and making play calls.
Now, with Bob McNair, on the day-to-day for the players, does it matter if they have a beef with the owner?
I don't know why it is. I mean, they met, they did their protest. They had not had Bomani one player kneel. The only player since this began last season with Colin Kaepernick, Dwayne Brown, held up a fist while he stood for the national anthem in New England, and nobody else ever had. And in this game, everybody but 10 players, they knelt. They had their locked arms, the players. Most of the players who stood had a hand on the shoulder. And so I don't think it matters. It's like they go out there and they play for each other. We hear that it's cliche, but the fact is, they do a good job on focusing. They've had a lot of controversy, a lot of distractions, but I was very impressed. Now, when it came to the actual playing, their pass coverage was awful. They got shredded by Russell Wilson, blew a game they should have won.
We're talking to John McClain of the Houston Chronicle here on the Right Time. Now, with that defense and the injuries and everything they've had, is this just a defense that's not going to be good for the rest of the year, or is this just a matter of a bad week?
Depends on who they play on quarterbacks. Tom Brady, Alex Smith, and Russell Wilson combined for 12 touchdown passes. The other quarterbacks they've gone up against, that would be Blake Bortles, Andy Dalton, Marcus Mariota / Matt Castle, haven't hurt them at all. And now they've got Jacoby Brissett coming up, and then they go to L.A. and play against Jared Goff and the Rams. So let me run some players they don't have that they had last year. J.J. Watt, Whitney Merciless, Vince Wilfork, John Simon, starting left linebacker, Brian Cushing, A.J. Boye, and Quinn Demps, the safety who led them interceptions. And now they've lost Christian Covington, who was starting at right end for the year with a torn bicep. So the coaches have had to make do with a lot of new players signed off the street, veteran free agents, rookie free agents, and they've done a pretty good job against the lesser quarterbacks. But, boy, they've been carved like pumpkins by Brady and Wilson and Smith.
All right, talking to John McClain of the Houston Chronicle here on the Right Time. Now, back with Deshaun Watson, we talked to you before, and you said that Tom Savage had outplayed him in the preseason. Has anything really changed with him? Because it's so amazing to see how well he's played, given that he wasn't the starter off the rip.
It's first of all, I can't recall a time a team that won a division, won a playoff game, started the season with a rookie quarterback. It is rare. If I'm sure there's been a time, but I don't know what it is. And Savage was better in the offseason. He was better in preseason. And everybody is critical of O'Brien for not starting him at the get-go, and maybe the reason Watson is so good is he did get to watch the starters a lot and learn. And he's been great at learning what O'Brien's doing. O'Brien talks about the pocket, how much better he's gotten in the pocket. Pocket can be a pocket on the move to the right, to the left, can be in the traditional pocket, and they try a lot of different things with him. It's almost like they're mad scientists trying to cook up something, because the guy they got shows he can handle just about anything. The Seahawks said they saw things that they hadn't seen on tape, and they were fortunate that they had Russell Wilson in that game. So he's gotten smarter. Once he got on the field after the second game, He came off the bench in the opener against Jacksonville because pass protection was pathetic. And Savage had been sacked 6 times. They thought maybe Watson's mobility would offset the pass rush. It did not. He was sacked 4 times, and they were obliterated. Then O'Brien saw something in that game, Bomani, that made him start Watson on a short week at Cincinnati. I thought he was nuts. I thought he should go back to the veteran, and they won that game on a Watson run, and the rest is rookie history.
All right, last question for John McClain, the Houston Chronicle. DeAndre Hopkins left the facility on Friday and did not return. Was there any concern with anybody in the organization that he might not play in the game?
No, there was never any concern about that, and I told him yesterday he needs to leave once, miss a practice every week, considering he had 8 catches for 224 yards and a touchdown. He's playing great. I'll give you a little stat here. Hopkins is on a pace for 16 touchdowns. Will Fuller is on a pace for 23 touchdowns, and the Texans' all-time record is for a twosome is 16, Andre Johnson and Kevin Walter in 2008.
All right, that is John McClain of the Houston Chronicle. You were fantastic as always, sir. Thank you.
Bomani, it's my pleasure. Thank you very much, and I hope you're doing really well.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
You know, I'm from Houston, man, hometown by the center of the sports universe. Bob McNair almost started the revolution off by himself, kind of by accident, but the revolution almost started right there on his watch with his No, No, No. Their song is Ding, 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 Ding-a-Ding, Ding. Our song is Ding, 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 Ding-a-Ding. Ding, 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 ding. That's basically what he wound up doing. And I say he was lucky because in Houston, at least for him, he's not the biggest story right now because they got Astros mania. And now the Astros are 1 win away from the World Series. Also, the Astros are in the American League. I feel like I need to tell people that because if you're anything like me, that's really easy to forget. Like, hey, what you mean the Astros and the Dodgers are in the World Series? It's not possible. It's got 2 leagues. No, the Astros are over there. Shannon, did you stay up to watch the end of that game? I didn't.
I tried, man. I tried. Like, it was on. I tried. It was exciting from what I heard when I was half asleep. I tried.
I told you, man, baseball is like that ex that I still have wonderful feelings about, but I just don't keep up with her. That makes sense, right? Like whenever I see baseball, it's like, yo, it's good to see you. You well? You been good? You straight? And then I go on back on to whatever it is they'll be doing. And so, like, I feel like the playoffs are like homecoming, right? I see baseball at homecoming. Man, it's like I never left, babe. You know, I don't remember everything that's going on. You got to kind of update me of what's going on in your life right now. But it still feel the same when I put my arm around your waist at homecoming. It still feel the same.
So is baseball sending you to the Hey Stranger text?
Yes, that is it. That's it. To get that email from MLB. Postseason right around the corner. Like, any chance, are you coming down this weekend? Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll see you there. Maybe I will. Right? Like, but that's just how I feel about it. I have overwhelmingly positive things to say about baseball. I just don't really be wanting to keep up with it. It just doesn't hold my interest in the way that it used to. It ain't as sexy as it once was. And now, Shannon, it's like baseball tried to get some plastic surgery. Brought the home runs back. Like, you used to love the home runs, didn't you? Remember that? Remember the long ball? You used to love that, right? We got that back right here.
Exciting. The home run is exciting, right? That's what they used to say, right?
Yeah, but they misunderstand it wasn't the home run that I liked about you. It was the little things. I'm just not that into it anymore. It's just not what it is. But now that one is 3-2. The Dodgers haven't won a World Series since 1988, and there has not been a World Series winning team, by the way, as not so talented as the 88 Dodgers since then. The Astros have never won a World Series, so this would be a big deal for whoever it happens to be. Again, Bob McNair, go Stros. He needs the Stros to go ahead and pull this off. Except, Shannon, it's 2 games at home for the Dodgers, 3-2. And if there's anything the Braves fan here can tell you, do not trust the 3-2. Down 3-2, but 2 games at home. Nope, that sounds a lot like 1991 to me. 96 is not one of those before you try to go there, Yankee fan.
Say anything. I was gonna agree with you there.
I saw it all over your face. Why you rocking? Why you still rocking?
I was going to agree with you. I was absolutely going to go Braves Twins there. Absolutely.
Oh, word.
Mm-hmm.
That's
sure.
That's how. Okay.
I was there for you. I was there for you. Every pitch in that series.
I would also like to know, by the way, that the Braves were down 3-2 to the Pirates coming back to Atlanta, and then they won that series. How about that? You remember that one? I'm pretty sure the same thing happened in '96 over the Cardinals. The Cardinals, Shannon. Remember that? Never mind. We don't even. Anyway, what I'm saying is the Dodgers themselves have a chance. Although you wound up with some measure of controversy over the weekend. You see that with the dude, Yuli Gurriel? Had you ever heard of him before the weekend?
I paid attention during that Yankee-Houston series. So
that's right.
I got familiar with him then.
When the Astros were beating the Yankees?
The Yankees are
up 3-2.
My
bad. That's another one of those 3-2s.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
My fault.
I was waiting for you to reference that.
Well, thank you for helping me remember.
Or that other Houston, New York 3-2.
Oh,
series.
yeah, the time that John Starks became a local legend in Houston. He's right up there with Clyde Drexler as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, the Guriel cat did the slanted eyes about you, Darvish. And number one, what are you doing? Like, I just can't believe that at any point you thought that that would be, like, the business. Like, this is what I'm going to do if I do something off of Darvish, and I'm going to do that. Like, what were you thinking? And then, of course, rightly, a punishment came down and all of the finger wagging. I think all of that wound up being appropriate. I think it's fair to ask the question as to whether or not he should have been suspended for the postseason, but I also think the argument is fair that all he would have done was appealed anyway, and then if he appealed, it would have been like Chase Utley, and the suspension would have been pushed off. Major League Baseball has some weird explanations, though, for why it is that they pushed the suspension to the regular season. One of them is that they wanted to make sure salary was docked, which tells you everything about the value structure of these leagues, where they feel like a punishment ain't a punishment if it doesn't wind up costing you any money. They talked about how Darvish handled it so well that Darvish just wanted to move on. Darvish's opinion don't matter at that point. This is about something bigger than you, Darvish, right? Like, if this was only about the way you, Darvish, felt, then the way you would resolve this is say, hey, you, go fight the dude. You go take care of it yourself. But it's about something much larger than him. The other one, though, they said was they wanted to make sure that Buddy didn't appeal. And I think there's something to that if this guarantees, because if it's the World Series, if the suspension is during the postseason, he absolutely will appeal and absolutely has to appeal. You just got to roll the dice on that. One thing I'd like to note, though, Major League Baseball, if you, Darvish, did that thing, if Guriel did that thing with the slanted eyelids, and then he put it on a T-shirt or perhaps a baseball cap, and you could somehow find a way to sell that as the mascot for one of your franchises, would you have a problem then? Would you? I mean, it's not as though a caricature of someone based upon their ethnicity is something that Major League Baseball is just too classy to indulge. Or is it we can only let you do these racist things if we gonna find a way to make some money off of it? Like, they need to reconcile that within themselves, because I do kind of feel like if Little Buddy wanted to put forth some sort of appeal, that would be the basis of my appeal. Major League Baseball clearly doesn't think there's anything wrong with this. They obviously don't. They sell this, literally sell this. They put a price tag on it, and they sell it, and they will only get rid of it once they decide that the appropriate white people are okay with getting rid of it. But this ain't about no matter of principle. It's not. It's just not what it is. I tell you what, it is a matter of principle, though. Did y'all see that woman that caught that home run? I think it was in left field at Enron. And then once she caught it, the dude standing next to her snatched the ball out of her hand and threw it back on the field. Did y'all see that? And so the story goes that the woman was there with her husband and the dude, because apparently at Enron, they have decided, I saw somebody make this point on the internet, Shannon, the Enron people paid for 30-year naming rights on that stadium in 1999. We got 12 more to go.
Notice you still called it Enron.
They got 12. I don't want them to ever forget that. That was the funniest thing in the world. They sold those naming rights to the company whose name you did not ever want on your building. Fine, call it the juice box. Anyway, so the woman catches the home run ball. It turns out she's there with her husband, and the dude that snatched the ball out of her hand is her brother-in-law, because somehow they have co-opted that tradition at the stadium where you throw back the other team's home run balls. And apparently the woman said that she was just so excited about catching it that she was going to throw it back on the field herself, but the brother-in-law just couldn't wait because he was a little too antsy because of the game. And Shannon, I'm just asking you, somebody snatched the ball out your queen's hand in that way, and you don't really know what's going on. How's that work?
Have to be some explaining going on right then and there at that time. You ain't just about to be doing that. Nope.
But guess who I bet is demanding the explanation in that moment? You'd have to jump fast to be the one to reconcile that one. No. There cannot be a circumstance under which you snatching something out my queen's hand without, not for no tradition. Because if she want to take it and put it in her purse, then that baseball going home in her purse. What you going to do, reach in her purse and take it if it come down to that? Now we got to fight.
I can bet he's heard about that all day today, too.
And that was a lowbrow move. I thought that was just one of those matters of principle. Like, my approach to my friends' wives involves things like, I'm not snatching anything out of your hands. It's a lot of yeses and pleases and thank yous. maybe a few ma'ams. Basically, I just Xerox the manual for dealing with your mom and apply that to your queen. And you know why? Because cats be fighting over their queens. And it's a fight you can't win. Even if your man's queen is tripping. You just kind of got to charge that one. No, I'm not talking about you, Shannon, just to be clear. I just had to be very, 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 very clear about that. But I've lost friends over that, though. Wife got mad at me, and we was never cool to get.
It's always a slippery slope, too, because, like, with you explaining your friends to your wife, you gotta make your best friend seem like he's the best person possible.
Yes.
Because he's a direct reflection of you and your choices.
Yes, in the best light. In the best light. Your best friend needs to look like a beacon. Now, some of these other cats, that might be one thing, but your road dog? Oh, no. And not that I'm Shannon's best friend, but this is in part why I send gifts to your kids every Christmas. You got to have at least one friend that you can always say, he on the up and up. She do think I'm on the up and up, right?
We good?
Woo!
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, just like our next guest, Super Bowl champion Ryan Clark. Ryan, what did you think about that shootout in Seattle? Because I was trying to think of the last time I saw the Seahawks in a shootout.
Man, it was fun to watch, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. You getting to the point now where you just want to see good football. You want to see cats compete. You want to see games come down to dudes executing and making plays. And that's what we got to see. I mean, you had two quarterbacks lead their team in rushing and throw for over 400 yards. And you were trying to figure out who was going to get the ball last. And even with, Houston and Deshaun Watson making play after play, Russell Wilson was able to match him on the other end, and it came down to people executing in situational football and the 2-minute drill. Obviously, you see Bill O'Brien, he comes out, calls 3 runs in a row when they can't stop Deshaun Watson. You don't even put the ball in his hands, and that's on him. He said it after the game. And then you give up 3 big plays on defense for the touchdown. It was a great game to watch. It was exciting, but it also shows a lot of the chinks in the armor of the Seattle Seahawks that Russell Wilson really covered up for. No running game, no protection, giving up big plays on defense. So going forward, if they're going to, fulfill the dreams and aspirations of winning Super Bowls, they got to shore those things up. But for Deshaun Watson, Dabo was right, man. He Michael Jordan. He Mikey Jordan, Kobe Bryant, baby Jesus, pick one. That's who he playing like now.
Now, you mentioned how much fun it is to watch shootouts. As a defensive back, what is it like to play in a shootout?
Oh, man, it's the worst, man. You feel so cool. Hey, man, Bo, you be looking at the linemen, you fussing at them because they not getting the pass rush. They turning around looking at you like you can't play ball no more. I mean, it's difficult. And then, your coach is scratching his head. And when the players start giving up plays, the coaches start making calls that put you in even worse positions. You look at the bomb that Richardson caught, and he's just one-on-one down the field. That's the worst position ever to be in as a defender when you're behind the wide receiver and it's a jump ball. It's going to be a tough play to make it. And then when you're the guy in the middle of the field that's doing that, man, you feel like you let the whole Houston Texans down. So I couldn't imagine, what those guys were going through and feeling, because now I'm old, man. I'm out of that mode. I just sit up in the room and talk about it. So you got to try to make a play, and they just couldn't.
We're talking to Ryan Clark right here on The Right Time. Now, with Watson threw for all those yards and made some big plays, but he also threw those 2 interceptions. Were those just young quarterback mistakes? Because one of those, Sherman, just seemed to be like, I know exactly that this ball is coming right here.
I think the one to Earl Thomas was worse. It was a disguise coverage. It was a man robber coverage where Earl Thomas was kind of the free guy, and Deshaun locked on to DeAndre Hopkins right away. He was like, you know what? I'm throwing this ball to DeAndre, and I ain't throwing it to anybody else. And he never looked off, or he never found the down safety, and that was pretty bad. The one to Rich kind of fell off of his man in zone, and so when you do that, you don't really get an opportunity to see the guy. So those were 2 bad interceptions, some things he needs to get better on, just about not finding a guy, locking on, especially when you're playing people that can read the quarterback and react in the same way that Rich and Earl can.
Well, I was going to say, that's Sherman's game, right? Trick you into thinking it's open and then go get it.
Yeah, exactly, man. And so that's tough. But especially if you watch the play, he didn't survey the whole defense. He was kind of like, listen, they can't cover DeAndre, so I'm throwing to him no matter what.
All right, we're talking to Ryan Clark of ESPN here on The Right Time. Another week in the soap opera of your Steelers. Are you surprised that they've come out at 6-2 with everything that's gone on this year?
They're just that good. I think they're much better on defense than I expected them to be. They've rushed the passer a lot better than I expected. Adding Joe Hayden and Artie Burns coming on in his second year has helped them on the outside. And then offensively, when you got dudes, you got dudes. When you decide that, when you figure out Le'Veon Bell is the best running back in the league and you hand him the ball, good things happen. When Juju Smith-Schuster comes along and he is everything we thought he was going to be before the year started at USC last year, that helps. And so you've seen this team really kind of come into its own and not really worry about the noise. And I think when you have Coach Tomlin, a dude that does his best to kind of quiet those things and does his best to kind of not fan those flames, it helps a lot. But it also helps when you just got good players. And I think that's what we're seeing with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Now, we know how good their quarterback has been, but how good is their quarterback now?
He's not playing very well. I'm going to be really honest about that. If you look at last night, there were some throws that he really missed. He had Hayward Bay wide open across the middle, and he missed them. Jesse James down the seam when they were backed up right before he hits Juju Smith-Schuster. So he's not pushing the ball down the field as effectively as we've seen him in the past. Now, is he still better than 3/4 of the quarterbacks in the NFL? Absolutely, but he's not what he was, and it doesn't really necessarily look physical. It looks like he's just not as sharp as he was, in the glory days where he was consistently going to Pro Bowls. And in order for this team to be what they want to be and what they can be with the people surrounding him, he's going to have to shore some of those things up, because you can't really have the red zone woes and the third down woes that this team has sometimes, because they can't make some of those plays in the passing game.
All right, we're talking to Ryan Clark of ESPN here on The Right Time. Switching gears just a little bit, is Kirk Cousins on full run-for-his-life status for the rest of the year with that line he's playing behind?
If you don't get some of those guys back, you're in trouble. I mean, you look at Trent Williams, probably the most talented and best left tackle in the game. You lose your center and Spencer Long. Brandon Sheriff, a first-round pick from a few years back, he's out. And so now you're trying to figure out, man, are there going to be people to block for me? Will I consistently be under pressure from the rush? And then you start to watch the rush instead of looking downfield and making throws. Because late in that game, Bo, he had opportunities to make plays. He had enough protection to push the ball down the field and to complete passes. And there were just some balls that were thrown that were just awful. And if you're Kirk Cousins and you're asking for people to back up the money truck or the Brinks truck to your door, you got to win some of these games. You got to pull off some of this I make people around me better type stuff. Obviously, he has the organization by the pants a little bit because they don't know where to go if he leaves, and somebody else might pay him. But he's not playing like a dude that deserves the kind of money that he's seeking.
Well, are you also surprised at how poorly they run the ball?
I am. It's a weird thing. Sometimes you got to just stick with it enough and to where it works. You look at this team, they seem more comfortable putting in Chris Thompson and letting the screen game and the short passing game kind of supplement for the run. But when people start to understand that and scheme that, you don't get those big plays and those explosive plays that we saw a couple of weeks ago on prime time. So they need to figure out a way to stick with the threat of the run, to be confident in the threat of the run in order to give Kurt some opportunities to make some plays. But I am surprised that they haven't been able to create a running game, whether it's Fat Rob, Pete Ryan, or Chris Thompson back there.
All right, that is Ryan Clark. Check him out covering the NFL for us here at ESPN. Thanks so much, my man. I appreciate it.
Have a good one, my boy.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
So hating Jerry Jones is still at it, man. Jerry Jones is trying to get Roger Goodell up out the paint. This is a report that we got this weekend about this. So apparently there's a conference call, 17 owners on Thursday, and they talked about holding up Goodell's contract extension. That's what they call them, sources told the good folks at ESPN. Here is a quote that we have here. Is not a quote, but they're saying here that apparently it's a growing difference of opinion among owners on how Goodell has done as commissioner, and that the 17 who were on the phone were generally unhappy with the NFL for a lot of reasons. And here we go with one owner saying, and I quote, "You don't get to have this many messes over the years like Roger has had and survive it." Oh, Okay. Now, here's Jerry Jones in the post-game press conference yesterday talking about why you got to get this right.
Wouldn't at all comment regarding that status. As you know, I'm kind of an ombudsman. I'm very much involved in the dialogue that goes on with the contract. I'm not on the committee per se. You know, we make the commissioner of the NFL the most powerful person that I know of as to the organization and his constituency. So it's a big deal when we not only hire him, but when we extend him. So that has a lot of consideration to it. Shouldn't surprise anybody.
Hold on. Run that back one more time, and I'll tell you when to stop.
Wouldn't at all comment regarding that status. As you know, I'm kind of an ombudsman. I'm very much involved in the dialogue that goes on with the contract. I'm not on the committee per se.
Stop right there. I am not on the committee per se. Per se. Is there anything in our vernacular that indicates that somebody just tried to pull some BS on you like the words per se? I'm not on the committee per se. You ain't on the committee. Forget about per se. Like, I'm not on the committee. Jerry Jones's per se means, but I got my own rules, right? I'm not on the committee per se. But, you know, da-da-da, and everything else. And in the end, Goodell tried to do this thing with Zeke. Jerry Jones has absolutely drawn a line in the sand about what's going on with Zeke, and he seemed to still be mad at it. Now, what also seems to be going on here with, Goodell, the anthem stuff. And part of what the anthem stuff is, Goodell has been the one that's been, like, on the middle ground on that. Like, we got to listen to the players and da-da-da and everything else. When he's owners clearly don't seem to have any interest in doing that. And so when the guy says you don't get to have this many messes over the years like Rodgers had and survive it, why did he survive it this long? How did he survive it this long? The only thing that would be the tipping point is the fact that Rodgers tried to be cool uncle this year. Right? He has tried to be cool uncle this year. Letting them have the dances, trying to listen to these cats about the protests and everything else. And the mean old granddaddies are coming in saying, shut that down. Shut that down.
Call him Uncle Raj?
Uncle Raj. Yo, cool Uncle Raj, man. Uncle Raj let us drink all the soda we want. Like that seems to be the way that Uncle Raj is trying to play this right now. Now, apparently it'll take 24 to force him out. And I read something that said, they viewed this situation as kind of similar to when Fay Vincent was commissioner of baseball, and they didn't have enough to force Fay Vincent out. But they got enough to get him to resign and then name Bud Selig the commissioner, though Bud Selig was the owner at the time. Fay Vincent, interestingly, wrote a book after that. I think it was called The Last Commissioner. And he said, because in his farewell address, he said that people viewed me as though I'll be the last commissioner. The last commissioner in the sense that the idea that the commissioner operated independent of the owners was going to die. They were hiring one of their own, and therefore the commissioner would more than ever be a representative of the owners in the way that it had not been previously. Maybe that's what the owners of football want, except it sure seems like that's what the owners in football already have. Like, Raj is their guy. Raj is their dude. Raj seems to do what it is that they want. Raj has taken their bullets, and it would be crazy ironic if in the end Raj has taken all their bullets and then he basically bleeds to death and they say they need a live body in here. That seems to be it. Now, on Friday's show, I was not here, but Don Van Natta said that they had to keep Jerry out of those meetings until Jerry strong-armed his way into those meetings. Shannon, it sounded to me like Jerry has made the decision that he's running Raj about the paint.
Like, I'm the boss, and I'm running this.
Or that's you not the boss, right? Like, that seems to be the big thing. He is salty with Raj. He does not like the way that Raj has handled this stuff. He is trying to get Raj up out the paint. Now, what is it for, like, if you're Roger Goodell, what does it take for you to quit your $40 million a year job? Shady, you're not hearing
that. Not that. It's going to take a whole lot more than Jerry Jones trying to strong on me for me to want to quit my $40 million a year job.
But how much fun did this job seem to be? Right? How much fun do you think this job is, being Roger Goodell at this point? Is there anything new for Roger Goodell to accomplish? I'd say the legacy of Roger Goodell is pretty, like, concretely set up. You already got a situation where your queen got to get on the burner account to try to defend you in front of all these people. Shannon, I feel like your thinking basically is you're never walking away from $40 million to work a desk job. Does that sound right?
Now, I'm not comfortable enough yet in my finances where I can quit a $40 million a year job. Go explain to your queen, the one that's defending you on Twitter. Go explain to your queen that you decided to quit your $40 million a year job.
Okay, but what if you have had this $40 million a year job for a few years and you've already stacked like hundreds of millions of dollars? You can't do anything else with the money. Like you have spent the money that you have now, those are the bills you'll be spending for the rest of your life. You're never going to touch this 2017 money.
Right. If we've learned anything from these NFL owners, you know what people with a lot of money like to have?
More money.
More money.
That is the one thing. Like, regular people be like, nah, I got enough money. You don't get to $1 billion by stopping on the way and being like, nah, I'm good. I'm straight. But this job doesn't seem like any fun, and I feel like, Goodell got to be able to get himself a consultancy somewhere, right? Can't he lead, like, search firms? You know what Roger Goodell needs to do? Oh, he ain't actually a lawyer. Roger Goodell going to put Ted Wells out of business, I was going to say. It's going to be a bunch of Goodell reports. Anytime somebody got some situation, just call Raj. And homie Raj will be the one to go ahead and fix this. But if the anthem thing, if anything dealing with Raj is hinging on the anthem thing, good luck to him, man, because there's no win for anybody. Like, they are all now totally stuck in a situation that they cannot get out of because it's a matter of pride on both sides. Now, how about this? If Raj was able to negotiate and smooth something out with the players, that would allow them to know for certain that all 53 dudes every week go stand up on the sideline for the national anthem. They got to get Raj a raise, right? There would be no other option. I feel like that would qualify as doing the impossible. If that happened, they have got to give Raj a raise. So you think Raj, right? Raj got to be somewhere right now cooking it up, right? Like cooking up the best plan that he could possibly come up with. Because even though Jerry Jones isn't on the committee per se, Jerry coming to make it happen. You see, you read that in the Van Natta story with Wickersham, where Jerry at some point was like, I'm the ranking owner. You know that, right? Jerry went to find whatever rank it was that he could pull, right? I've been here the longest. I make the most money. Y'all gonna listen to me. Jerry's like, yeah, committees are great if I'm on them. If committees are not great, they are unfortunately not a representative collection of the actual people that are being discussed.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, just like our next guest. Check him out at SBNation.com, also EDSBS.com, the best college football writer in America. His name is Spencer Hall. Now, Spencer, I was going to ask you if you were surprised that McElwain got fired, except you sent me a text on Saturday that said they were going to fire him on Sunday.
Yeah, that wasn't me, by the way. I told you that. I was kind of calling that. Other people were completely right before I was. But it didn't really take a lot to figure out where it was going. When after he claimed there were death threats against him, which, sure, that's an entirely credible thing when you're talking about an SEC football coach. And the administration went to him, asked him for clarification on this. He provided none. And you figure at this point the university would say, oh, we're going to look into these threats and we'll update you as we can, right? We're just doing our due diligence. And nope, they did that and then included we pressed McElwain for more information, and he provided none. So you went from being his advocate to being a reporter, and when that happens, your time's short, right? This is an additive thing. It's been building for a real long time, and it's not just in external factors like Georgia getting good and like Tennessee probably hopping on the hiring wagon soon, and Florida State and Miami both recruiting, UF's backyard. No. There's a lot of internal factors at play here.
Well, there's also another factor that I think is interesting, which is Florida fans like fun football, right? Like, I think the athletic director even mentioned this after this. We want the football to be fun, and McElwain ball wasn't fun, but it was more fun than Muschamp ball.
Oh, no, it was just an extension of Muschamp ball. In fact, by some indications, as bad or worse offensively. Florida never got above the 100 mark in terms of total offensive performance nationally. That's 100. There's only 130 and change in teams. So when you're consistently performing right around Boston College level, and this year performing well below Boston College level, actually, and then you get rung up to a 35-point loss to Georgia, this is a lot easier and a lot simpler than I think people thought it was.
Even though we're talking special of SBNation.com here on The Right Time, you did win the East twice, right? Like, is that the greatest testament to how down the East was, that you could win it twice and in your third year get fired?
If it's a real small class, full of not real bright kids, you can still be valedictorian, right? Like that's basically what it was. The UF was the fastest slow team in the SEC East over the past 2 years. And once Georgia got it going, it became very apparent that this was bad, this was trouble, and Florida was going to fall behind real fast. So if all politics are local, and I think they are here, you have an AD who didn't hire him, you had a rival program on the rise, and you had an excuse to do it. And by the way, also, you managed to do it at a bargain because Florida's not paying that $12 million buyout. Real proud moment for my program's history. On the field, losing by 35 to Georgia, and reports come out that the lawyers are working on ways to reduce the buyout. That's real Gator pride right there.
It's consolation prize. We're talking to Spencer Hall of SBNation.com. Now, how good is the Florida job these days? Because I used to think Florida and Texas were the best jobs in the country. Texas is not as good a job as it used to be, and I'm not sure where Florida stands.
I think Florida's still up there, though. I think that the reputation's been damaged strictly by two bad hires in a row, and that's going to damage the reputation of a job because those are two coaches who failed and two coaches who obviously, are not bad at their job. They were just bad fits. So that's going to scare everyone off the job. You're still, by the way, closer to the biggest mine of talent in the nation than almost any other university. You're large, you're public. The facilities are good but not great. That's probably the biggest ding. But Urban Meyer was successful at those facilities. So I think people can kind of overrate those, and those are probably on the way anyway. So I still think it's a first-tier job. I still think if you say, would this coach take this job from almost any other school, they would. There aren't many moves which are lateral if you consider a move from X to Florida.
Now, where do you think they'll look?
I think they'll look big and obvious first. Everyone says Dan Mullen because Dan Mullen's done a really, really good job at Mississippi State, despite coaching at Mississippi State, which in itself has been a career killer for countless coaches and has been historically a program with a dismal history. Dan Mullen's managed to be well above 500 there, which in itself is kind of a remarkable achievement. He also, Strickland knows him. I don't think they're particularly close. I don't think it's a slam dunk, easy, automatic hire. I think they look south, too. I mean, UCF, Scott Frost is the hot young name. He's the Tom Herman of this year. And they are playing a style of football, which you didn't see. They scored 70 points this weekend, admittedly against an FCS team. But let me put it this way. When was the last time Florida scored 70 points in a month?
We're talking to Spencer Hall of SBNation.com. Do they need to go back spread, or do you think you could really do pro-style damage at Florida?
I think whatever they do, whatever coach they hire, is just somebody who can implement it and actually teach it and recruit talent to it. They're just, whatever you do, I don't think Florida fans have, one particular belief or another in terms of offense as long as it scores points and scores them pretty quickly. So pro-style spread, blend, hybrid, whatever. I think as long as they're not rolling out, a ball control or triple option, they're going to be pretty happy with it as long as it's done well, which is the thing that Florida hasn't had since 2008, really.
All right, now let's switch gears and stay in the SEC. LSU, Alabama, this week. Are we back to thinking LSU at the very least is not terrible? Is that where we are now?
I think, I think they're USGA approved non-terrible, right? You might want to revoke that certification after the first two quarters or maybe the third quarter whenever the talent wall falls in and we see LSU start to struggle against Alabama. But I still think these are two fairly evenly matched teams, especially with the way LSU plays. They don't really want to keep the game anything but close. They're not really going to try to, go down the field a lot on you. They're just going to manage Danny Etling. So I think LSU's certified non-terrible. Unfortunately, they're going against a certified terrible prospect for almost any team in the nation, which is playing Alabama. And if you don't believe me, just look at Florida State. They play them once, and they got a hangover for the rest of the dang season.
Now, where are you on this Alabama team? Because I admit I have trouble telling Alabama teams apart from year to year.
You're not alone in that, right? And there's a reason. It's because it's outstanding talent that's kind of, managed to the hilt, which means that, they're going to run the ball. Like Notre Dame and Alabama actually have statistical, profiles that are really similar. And that's because they're going to run the daylights out of the ball, 50 carries a game. They're going to limit the passing game. They're going to try to control the clock, and they're going to try to take all the air out of the game. And that's why you can't tell them apart year to year. And you do the exact same thing, too, if you had that defense and you had Damian Harris in the backfield. They go 5 deep at tailback, so why wouldn't you play that way, right? Why wouldn't you? When you can just spend tailback talent like that before ever thinking about the offensive line, which goes 2 or 3 deep that can beat up on starting defensive lines in the SEC, then, yeah, you're just going to run like the most dry, boring, kind of anodyne offense possible.
All right, talking to Spencer Hall of SBNation.com here on The Right Time. All right, so Notre Dame has the 1 loss. Miami is undefeated. I believe they play each other this year. Do I have that right?
You do have that right. That is correct.
Wouldn't that have been so much more fun 30 years ago?
It was more fun 30 years ago, and especially because I don't think this is a real great matchup for Miami. But I will say this for Miami this year, they have a turnover chain. It's extremely festive. It comes in its own suitcase, if you haven't seen that. They bring it in its own kind of silver briefcase, which they really should handcuff to the person for maximum effect when they bring it in. And they also win every game 24-19. Go back and look at their scores this year. No matter who they play, it's 24-19. So, if the over is anything above that, you might want to take a gander at that in the Notre Dame game because Miami kind of turns everyone into the same team.
I feel like the Miami offense also needs a turnover chain, like one of shame that has a cinder block attached to it.
They're really just trying to hand someone a loss, and they keep refusing to somehow. Notre Dame might be happy to oblige them, especially if you consider the way that Notre Dame's defense played this past weekend against NC State. Miami will be happy. They'll be happy to take that from Miami if they're offering.
All right, that is Spencer Hall. Check him out, edsbs.com, also sbnation.com, and also every week here on The Right Time. Thanks so much, my man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks for listening to The Right Time podcast. Please come back tomorrow for more. And don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.